y'all, it's Terry with Sisterhood of the Traveling Brush, and we are about to work on a flower, or, well, some flowers in a vase. I hope you can see everything good. I have provided a supply list. I just have all my stuff out here that you know, where you can see it. This is the heat gun that I'm going to use here. You can use a blow dryer, whatever you have, but I'll have this in the supply list because it's easy to go over. I like to draw out what I'm going to do because I'm going to be you know, sharing it with other people to where you can get a quick visual. You can snapshot this to make things a little bit different if you want them. But I have the supply list, which I will type out for you. This is, so this is just my planning phase. I have palette knives, brushes, my Blick paints, water, my spray gun, my rag, and my supplies. So I'm going to get this out of the way and we'll go ahead and get started. This I try to do each time a little bit of something different. So this is to learn new techniques and new styles, because some people will take off with this style and make it their own, and this will be something that, you know, changes the way that they do art forever. And others will do this one and it'll be a one time, hey, I did that, I tried it, that wasn't my thing. And you know what we do with the next project, you know, maybe with pastel colors and lights and brights and sweet little things, will be something that will be more their style. So I try to do, I have a varied style, and I'm trying to do a varied style on the projects that we do here. And this one is a little bit shabby, and it's a little bit simple, it's a little bit abstract, and quite colorful for something that's supposed to look sort of sad and drab. Going against what I usually do on this, on most of my paintings, because I'm going to use some black today, and I usually use like a burnt sienna or something like that instead of black. But we're going to add black to this one because that's what I believe is going to help more people. I always use a spray bottle and mist my canvas before I start. They can be thirsty. My supplies, most of these, this is called a gallery wrapped canvas, FYI. This one is probably 1.5 inches thick, and look how nice this is made. It's sturdier, and it's got a thicker, you know, canvas weave on it. That's probably a cotton, so it costs a little bit more. You don't have to use that kind, but for this one I wanted to. Let me show you. A lot of times, see how much smaller the wood is on this and how it's stapled there. That's the 12 by 12 canvases that I use a lot. I don't use the smaller canvases like this as much, because it's harder, after, if you can see where I broke my wrist, for me to do the smaller things. But I felt like this was right for this one, and so here we go. I want to make sure I'm still where I need to be there. I made marks earlier, but if you don't know, there's a difference in how it was focused for a photograph and what you see when you're doing a video, so I had to move it a little bit. And I apologize for my voice. I'm just about 3 weeks in with the flu, and it has not been any fun, but I am ready to paint, and I'm ready to have a good time, and I'm ready to share this technique with you. So let's go. The first thing I'm going to do, a little bit different than what I usually do. I love to paint backgrounds first, but we're going to do it a little bit different this time. I'm going to use a round brush. This is one of my favorites. I got it from Blick as well. It's called Interlock Bronze by Dynasty 171R. Use whatever brush you want to. This is just one that I happen to love, and I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use this piece of cardboard that has some dried paint on it as my palette today. My black, this is a Blick Mars Black, and it's very thick. I've used it a lot, and I'm going to use it a lot more till it's gone, and then I'll order some more, because it is awesome. And I'm going to draw out where the flowers in the vase and things are going to be with this. Even though we're going to sort of paint over with that in a minute with our other colors, it's going to give some depth, sort of depth of character, maybe would be a way to put it. But it's going to give a little bit of little something something in the background, whether we feel like it will or not. I'm going to come around the edges. You know I like to do that, right? I paint my edges. We're going to paint them all black in a minute, but it makes me feel good to do them that way, so I'm going to do it that way. Okay. We're going to have our vase sitting on a table that I probably shouldn't have put that far up, but we'll see what we're going to do. Your vase can be round, square, straight up and down, however you want to do it. This is just what I'm going to do today because, you know, I like a little bit of curves. So I'm going to add a little bit of curves in here. Then it will, you always want an odd number. When you're working on things, it keeps it sort of easy to look at. And you see where I have this off center. I like to do off center as well. And I'm a licensed florist, and Louisiana florists have to be licensed. And we were also taught that your most important flower, your focal point, you have one flower that's going to be your focal point, and that's your most beautiful, biggest flower that you put in your arrangement, and it will go closest to the mouth of your vase. So we're going to do these here. I'm going to decide this one's going to be my important one. They even taught us that in floral school. I went to a House of Floral Design by a lady named John, Jeanne, in New Orleans, and it was a lot of fun, and that was probably 25, 30 years ago. But anyway, I learned a lot there, and I appreciated her. Second rule of that is your least important flower, your smallest one, would be the farthest away, which means theoretically this should be medium, large, focal point, medium, smaller. But I kind of like the way this looks, and I may leave it alone, but I can't leave well enough alone, so here we go. Let's make this one our secondary flower of importance, and have it looking away a little bit. This one's going to be looking at us. We're going to have some leaves on there. Let's see, we'll have a couple good drapey leaves coming all the way down the vase here a little bit. And don't worry, the whole thing's not going to be in black and white. I got some colors fixing to go on. But I'm wanting this to, you know, to give that little bit of depth in the background. Let's see. Usually each of the roses will have a couple of leaves sticking out, and we kind of want them to be a little bit in proportion. Get me a little bit of water on my brush because my paint's so thick. Thin it out a little bit. Let's see, we need a couple for this one, right? Where are they going to come from? How about that? Oh, it's so much easier to work with that now that my brush is wet. How about, let's get that up in there. And, you know, there's not just 2 leaves on there. We have to stay a little bit proportional here. I'm going to put a couple coming down right here, smaller ones, just to add a little color to the face. And a couple more longer things coming out over here like this. So we got 1, 2, 3, odd number of flowers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, odd number of leaves. And let's move this table down a little bit. It looks stupid up there, so we will move this down. Thicken up our vase a little. It's not I don't think it may be black in the end for all I know, because that part of it's not planned out. That's where your creative flow and juices and all that come out. This could have well been done with any dark color, black, brown, dark purple. I was going to do this in dark purple, and I have half my paint at work, half here. Hope you can hear me over this. I want to dry this just a little. I got some thick clumps there. I would ordinarily leave that. We're going to see how it goes. I don't want it all wonked in with my other colors, but I like having that little bit of texture there. I'm wanting to dry this a little because I'm not wanting the black to smear in with the other colors. I'm wanting it to lie behind the other colors. So whether you used a deep green would be beautiful, a deep purple, a deep red, whatever your color is, choose the deepest of the colors to go as your sort of your background there. I'm going to go a little bit against what I plan to do here, because we're going to put a little bit of our background in now while this black, because I do have the thick pieces that I'm not wanting to take off. I do want those to dry a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and put in some of our background in here, because the background's going to have 2 or 3 layers, and it's going to need time to dry a little bit too. And I hadn't decided on the color, so what are we gonna do? I know my flowers are gonna be purple, so I keep my purples out for that. Let's see, we could do orange. We're gonna have so much green hanging down for our here's the options. We could do orange, we could do yellow, we could do teal. We're going to do right now, because there's going to be more than one layer, we're going to do right now the teal. And this is another method that I use a lot, is I just squirt me some paint right on the background. This may seem a little bit silly, but it's going to work out. I'm gonna make this vase teal as well. We're going to use this palette knife, and this is a Master's Touch, and get a little bit of water on there. You know what? I'm going to get a little bit of white as well. Go ahead and put it on my palette. Grab a little on the palette knife. Grabbing a lot on the palette knife, because I'm just going to put some here and there, just like I did with the paint. We probably need to think right now, where is our sun going to come from? And let's say it's coming from here. We'll have everything lighter up here, darker down here. And let's get started. Doesn't matter if I go over that black a little bit, because remember, I'm going to have other colors going over that black in a little bit too. What I'm trying to avoid doing is, for one, I'm trying to avoid smearing this all up and now making it just a lighter teal, but I've done a lot of that. But I'm trying to just get a first layer in, because it's going to be covered up with something else in a minute anyway. But I do want to get it in there. Normally at this point I would be turning my canvas around, and I'm afraid y'all won't see much of it if I do, but I'm going to try that and try to keep it where it goes, where you can see those parts. Let's see. Oh yeah, we moved our table, didn't we? See how a little bit of that black is smearing in? That's okay. That's going to give it a little more of that aged look that we're going for. And that's not a problem at all. The leaf that goes over this black in a minute will go over this. This was called cobalt teal. It's a Blick acrylic. Grab me a hunk of the white to put over here with this. Can y'all still see that real good? Let me stand up because I can't see it. Yeah, from where I'm at. I'm not going around the sides because we're going to do our sides black. Trying to leave this a little bit swirled. And I'm going this way and that way. I don't want it all to be in the same direction. Sorry about that lapse in video. I'll try to splice these together. I'm videoing this with my phone and I have it on Do Not Disturb. I have it on Don't Even Let My Kids Call Me If They're Bleeding mode. And that's the third phone call since I said it. So, I'm a popular woman today. Ooh, look how cool that looks. I'm going to grab some more of this white to kind of swirl and blob in here, because remember, this is where our sun's coming from. So it's going to be lighter here. Get a little more swirl in there. When you're working with your palette knife, you try to hold it very lightly. I mean, I barely have a hold of it. And scraping across here because that's a very thick amount of paint I got there. And I don't need quite that much. And if I was holding it a little lighter, let me just grab a bigger one here. If I was holding it a little lighter, it would pull those smears across for me a little bit better. And use less paint. There we go. I like that. Love this. This is Blick something 34. This thing's huge. I could ice a cake with it. Love it. Let me try to get everything to sort of feel like it's radiating off of the flowers a little. There we go. This, when you're doing this alone, can be very, very therapeutic. I would normally have at least a little bit of music going in the background, but since this is going to go online afterward, and you know, the artist, rightfully so, don't like their music to not be being paid for, and we don't know who this is going to be listened to, how and when, and all those kind of things. If you don't own the rights to the music, you can't play it in your background. I accidentally just had some Christmas music playing in the background, so faint that I thought there's no way the video could pick it up. And I had about a half a dozen videos squashed by YouTube because of that. I'm thinking about the way that our vase is standing vertically, so even though it's not going to dry and make much of a difference, when I'm doing my final run through on the paint here, I want that to, if there's going to be some lines showing, I want them to be, for one, vertical, and since this is a round vase, a little bit rounded. So that's what I'm thinking about right now, even though that technically shouldn't make a difference. It does. You can see the difference in it. It does make for a more professional looking finish in the long run. So we're gonna make that happen. And I was stealing a little bit of paint off of there to have enough to go over here, because we do want this to be darker, because this is our shade side. This is shady in between those flowers. You know, when you're painting something that you don't have to take quite so seriously like this, there's nobody, you know, going to be looking at this trying to make it look like a photograph of roses out in the garden. It's very, very freeing, because anything you do is okay. Nobody knows it wasn't supposed to be that way to begin with, for one. And, you know, you could be inventing and creating some new artistic value of some sort, for two. It could happen, right? And, I don't know. I know for a fact it lowers my blood pressure. It definitely 100% does. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more right here and do something that's, I probably shouldn't. I'm going to dab this down in the black on my palette over here. Just enough. Can you see it's just a tad on there to deepen this just a little. I don't want it black. I want to deepen the teal, because this is a shadowed area. And even the, oh, I forgot to do something. And it's important. I usually start these videos by reminding you to put on your robe, because your robe. Oh man, did I tell you I had the flu? To put on your apron, because that sort of gets you in the mood to know that you are ready to create. Well, also, whenever I am doing a painting, especially when I'm doing mixed media stuff and rustic stuff and stuff like this, I very seldom ever forget, because I think of it sort of like my art journal, you know. I always write something on the canvas. I even had my pen out around here somewhere. And I always write something on the canvas. And, you know, if it's for somebody, maybe I write a good wish for them. Or maybe if I'm aggravated at somebody, I'll write not as many nice things about them, or sometimes I put well wishes to them. You know what I mean? This is it's raining outside. It's dreary here today, and these, I'm gonna make sure you can see good. These dang girl, I was out of the picture. These flowers are meant to make me smile, make you smile, make somebody smile. And so I normally would take a pen or a watercolor, whatever you want to do, and write a message on this canvas before you ever spray it with water and before you ever start, with your intention of what you want it to be for the day. And this is for the love of flowers. That's what this is going to be. And that's what I would have written back there. And you know, they remind me of my mama. I would have written, "Mama, I love you," and I still will. That was my grandmother. I'm going to write it right here. I'm going to write, "Love you, Bernie." That was her name. And that will be covered with paint in a minute. Nobody will ever know it was there but me. But it's there. I love her and my intention is there, and it will always be there. I just wipe off my palette knife like this on my old rag that's here. Throw these away when they get too gross, but I'm going to stick that one in the water. And I'll go ahead and stick this one in the water. And what in the world got on there? Okay. So, what are we going to do our bottom part here? Let's do that in orange, because I think I'm going to go over that with a little bit of yellow later. So this is so tacky looking, but this is meant to be colorful. You take another palette knife. This is just a plastic one from Walmart. And I love you, Bernie. Hate to cover it up. Looks gonna smear a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna wet my palette knife a little, just so I can thin out my paint a little. Easy, easy. Watch the difference when I remember to quit being so tight with everything. This is a tight arrangement. Everything's in there and nothing's out springing. That's a style, and that's on purpose today. We're going to do another one that'll be a loose arrangement. We may even do it as a finger painting. They're a lot of fun, and they're not always juvenile. There's some very famous artists out there who do their work with their hands. I don't generally like to get my hands real dirty, but it feels good when it's with the finger painting. And during that time, I'm going to get some of the white. During that time, I usually keep a box of baby wipes, or a package of baby wipes nearby. Okay, we're going to swirl some of this. Remember, this is our light side. This is meant to mimic a table, so I'm going to think about that as I'm swirling through, that the table would be somewhat, we're trying to make it be round. This is not wood grain, but that is easy, easy, easy. What the heck did I do? I guess I covered up part of the bottom of my vase. How about that? Now do I got to do it on this side? What y'all think? Let's do it. This is the way you do it. You do it. This is the blessings of acrylic paint. It's over. It was never there. It never happened, I tell you. Easy, and now I'm going to try to go through, get this bottom piece, which was my aim to begin with here, and we'll bring a little light to the dark side, a little dark to the light side. And we're going to leave it alone. It's done for now. Okay, that took longer than I anticipated, so let's get back to our flowers. My favorite color is purple, so we're going to use medium violet as our main. I'm still going with a dark color for that background. And in there with it, I'm going to go with a little bit of quinacridone violet, which is sort of a deep wine fuchsia looking color. That's very pretty too. And when you think about the color wheel, and I don't have one here, I would bring it out. Their purple is sort of across from yellow. It's going to look good with oranges. It's going to look good with reds, pinks. So when you're thinking of the center of the flower, for one, it's always going to be the darkest, but you go out into lighter colors. And I'm trying to decide now whether to add another color. I don't think what I am. I think my third color is going to be adding white to the two colors that I've already chosen. So here they are. I may or may not have enough here. Make sure that I'm centered still. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and use this tiny little palette knife. This is Artist's Touch. Don't know the size, but this thing is tiny, tiny. See? I picked up some of the teal paint. Glad I looked. Okay, this is probably not near enough paint, but I'm gonna grab some and definitely get some in the middle of each flower. Then I'm going to grab a little of the quinacridone violet, and let's just start doing sort of like C's, apostrophes. Let's get a little bit of that in there. Definitely need, I done used every bit of that up. I was being stingy with my paint, wasn't I? You know, you or I love my paints so much that I don't want to be wasteful. I love them. I care for them. Silly as that sounds. Here we go. And it also in nature, as a florist, I'll tell you this. In nature, if you haven't paid attention to the centers of your flowers are darker and your outer parts of your flowers are lighter. Also, your older flowers are darker, except for their edges, of course. And your smaller flowers look a little lighter. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a little white to go in the mix. And I'm just going to sort of splotch it in here. I'm not wanting it to be completely white. We may use some completely white in a minute. I'm going to splotch some down there. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit to splotch in with my purple here as well, my medium violet. And so now I have 4 colors. I could probably scoot a little of this right here, scoot a little of that right there, mash it up, and come up with the 5th color. Grab a little bit more of that darker one. Ooh, that looks like blackberry juice. Love it, love it. I love that more than the original colors. Okay, so we're gonna grab a little bit of each of them and keep going. A little C here, and a little C here. I want some of each of these colors to go on each flower, so I've got to... This is a style of, you know, very simplistic rose mimicking flower. And it's, you know, that my husband doesn't understand it, doesn't care for it a whole lot at all. And I get a... You know, he would rather that my paintings look like real flowers, but he might have just married the wrong girl for that, huh? This in here. Now I'm adding some more white, and I'm coming out with an even lighter version of each of these. Eek! I'm going to go ahead and use up all of that violet in that one. And one portion of it, and all of this quinacridone violet in this one. Make me a center puddle for the 3rd color. It didn't much 3rd color, did it? But we're gonna let it live that way. And grab some of each, and we can keep on going. I mighta coulda, I don't know what's gonna happen here. I mighta coulda dried that teal a little bit, but it didn't, so that's okay. We're not trying to cover up every bit of that black. And I'm paying no attention right this second to which shade or version I'm getting. I'm just wanting them all to get some of this almost Laffy Taffy color on them. I don't even know if Laffy Taffy's still a thing, but when I was a kid in school, we had Candy Recess, it was called. And in our gym, they sold candy as a fundraiser for the school. And I ate me some Laffy Taffy. A time or two or 100. Always got a joke in there. You know what I mean? Even if I don't even know if I got it that Laffy Taffy was a joke, that meant that it was going to have a joke, but I liked it. Okay, we're going to try to swirl in just a tad, leaving our dark center, but not leaving it as dark as it was. Smallerizing it. I'm using the Akron mount, so if you're a creative person as well and you're wondering how this is coming down, I'm using the Akron mount, and I have a link for that too, but it doesn't leave me very much room for moving around, so I'm feeling pretty tight there. Grabbing some more white. I don't want to go on here with white yet. I'm going to lighten up, get me a couple of grabs of it, and lighten up this whole mess up in one corner here. Sort of leave it semi-swirled. I'm not trying to come up with another color, but let's get these. I'm going to turn my palette knife this way this time. And I don't mind that I'm leaving hunks in there, because that texture is a bonus. Okay, here's the outer edge. You know, those outer petals, you can usually almost see through it a little, so I'm thinking about that as I'm leaving, doing these final edges. I want to make sure this baby here remembers it was the important one, right? Okay, now I'm going to get, while this is all still on my palette knife, a little bit of white, but it's still got that other smeared in, and I'm going to think about my light source. Where would it be hitting? Be hitting right there. Grab some more. Be hitting right here. Right there. Even though this may be shadowed a little bit by those petals. Probably hit, even though this is the depths of our flower there, the top pieces of that stick out enough to catch a little bit of light, just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to wipe this off and grab a little bit of that white, what's left of it that's not purple yet, if I can, and just put a little, so I don't waste it. You know how that can go. That can bite you in the hind end later, or not. And go this way. Just put a little bit on my face. It would be catching a little bit of light too. Go this side of my palette knife to make some of these lines pretty thin, because they're just glimpses of light. Okay. I'm under the ring light here. Also have a ring light thing if you're interested in that. But I'm gonna mist my black because I'm gonna use it again in a minute, and it's sitting there under the light drying out. Still using my same mister. Okay, I think those are very pretty. Let's do something with our green. What did I get out on green? I got out we have yellow green, green gold, and turquoise green. And these are, that's not my main green must be at work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab a little bit of this burnt sienna. Said I wasn't going to, but I am, because I feel like our greens need a little bit of depth in there, and I don't have a dark green in here, but I have this in here. So where's that tiny, tiny little one? I'm going to go back to it for a minute, and let's just get a little bit of, I'm just going to put it right just on here. Can you see that? Just on here. I'll add this burnt sienna to our supply list. Leaves are gonna be deepest at their base and lightest at their top, so I'm not worried about how deep it goes. We're only using this to deepen our greens. Give them a little bit more depth in there. But I wonder if anybody else knows what I'm thinking right this minute. Thinking some of this brown could probably swirl down in our table on the dark side to get rid of a little bit of that. Now this is our shadow side, so it's going to need a little bit more of the dark in there. I should probably be picking it up to get these, but because I can't get my elbow over where it needs to be because of the mount that's holding the camera. Okay, do we want a little bit of this in the vase, or do we want it on the table? It's going on the table. Here we go. I need a bigger one. I'm going to switch over for this part to a larger palette knife. I'm again just squirting right on the knife. I'm wanting to get right up to that vase because there would be a lot of shadow sort of coming off of the vase right there. Easy, easy, easy. Okay. tell you, I love this paint. This was the Blick Burnt Sienna. I hate that all paint companies use these tiny lids. They are not the ideal situation. Maybe we should invent a better paint lid. Okay. I'm going to go next with the turquoise green. Squirt a little on my palette knife. Even though this, I'll show you here, is both considered semi a teal or a turquoise, this is a lot different than what we have on the background there, but I'm just going to put a little bit of it out to begin with. My deepest of the greens I have here is this green gold. It doesn't really go with the tint of everything else here until I put the brown in, but I love it. You can see it's almost gone. I'm going to get a giant tube, if not even a jar of this one next time, because I love it so much. So we're going to put it in because everything doesn't have to be bright. Just because we're doing a bright colored painting. Having trouble with the lid. Come on, paint companies. Get with the program. Wonder if there's like one giant paint tube company nationwide that makes all the tubes and lids for everybody. This is the yellow green. It's the lightest, and I'll use it for the highlighting and maybe even mix it with a little bit of the white that we're out of here in a minute. Technically, I should probably dry this a tad. Not going to do a lot. I'm going to trying to make just a tad of a crust on there. What that is, we're going to leave it. Because we want it to show up and smear in a little bit, but we don't want it to take over. And let me see if I can hold this up a little bit. There's some very thick chunks of it on there. Excuse me. Okay. I don't know whether I want to use a palette knife or a brush. I'm gonna go back with this tiny little palette knife, and I'm gonna have to turn it. So all we're focusing on are the leaves, so I'm gonna try to turn this around to where you definitely can see the leaves, but I feel like I'm gonna work so much better with it this direction right now. Okay, even though our deepest color is this green gold, I'm going to put this turquoise down first. What did they call that one? Turquoise green. I'm going to put it down first. And I probably don't have enough of these out, but we're going to see. See if I can do anything else before I turn it again, as I am wanting to turn it again. See, I'm picking up a little bit of the brown there and smearing it in. I can live with that. I even just got a little bit of brown on my palette. Live with it. It's okay. Here's the one I didn't, well, there's two that I didn't get good. And I'm out of it, so I'm going to squirt a little bit more on there. You see the difference, even though these are definitely in the same color family. One lends itself more to the greenness and one more to the blueness. I just dipped that in the purple. Purpley pink. And in between the flowers, there's a little bit of area showing through. There would probably be leaves there. Okay, our next color, we're going to do the same thing and start it in the same way. Is going to be the deeper green. That's going to be the main color. We're going to need lots more of that, but that's going to be the main color of our leaves right there. I don't know why I'm so chinchy with this, knowing that I'm gonna be loving on it all over my page or my canvas. Remember, we had the two smaller leaves right here, and then we just had another blob of stuff coming down over there. I'm going to put a tad more on here because I want to put a little more in the flowers too. Just going with the side of my palette knife there, just because I love this color, and putting a little bit of depth and texture in there with it. Am I in a good place? Yep. There we go. Okay, now we're going to use our lightest, and which is kind of having trouble with the lid here. The highlight color, which is the yellow green. I'm just going to stick with the same palette knife. It's even still got a little bit of the other color on there. We ain't worried about that. Now we have to think about light again. Where's the light going to be touching? Because this is going to be a bit of our, I'm going to go ahead and scoop out a little bit of white on there. We're going to need it. And this is Blick Titanium White. I'm going to put it right there between my greens. Smash it on the edges there with that palette knife. See, I got a little smeared there in between in case I pick up some of those other colors. But let's just start with getting a little bit of this on here. Think about where the light's coming from. And this more closer to the tips, and then we're leaving these other closer to the ends. Easy, easy. Here at the top, there would be more light coming in. Not as much on those, but a little. And mix some white with it. And mix some white just sort of over here with all of them. Sort of all swirled in there together, and is now a greenish white. And I'm doing the same thing, thinking about where's the light. And I'm not grabbing any particular one at any given time. Just reaching in there in all those colors I've got mixed up and grabbing some. Remember, your tips are always lighter than your bases. And now I'm going to go in just for some pure white, not much, just enough for the sun to hit. Okay, while I got that white on there, not caring that there's a little bit of green in it, but I'm mostly wanting white. I'm going to come back in again over my table here. Trying to accentuate the roundness of it. And the same thing in our vase. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of what's left of the green and kind of smash it all up together here for a second. And just do a few lines through the vase that could potentially resemble stems if this were a clear vase. Okay. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do with this, and I'm gonna go with white to begin with and try to go over this teal a little, and I don't want it to be just plain white, but let's see what happens. This white is mixed in with green a little bit. I'm going to mix all the rest of the white that I have here with this green a little bit and just make it sort of an off whitey, greeny sort of color. I don't want it to look like my leaves at all. I definitely want it to be more white. And let's see what we can do. I'm trying to get semi close to the flowers and the other leaves and the elements and things like that of the painting, but I also want to sort of have the teal that we used to begin with be what's framing it. Even on our darker side, we're going to put a little bit of this, because that's the way we roll. Every little bit of a thing that you can do sort of like this allows a little bit more of the detail of your actual piece to stick out and become more important. That's more than I wanted to do. And we're going to leave that because it's supposed to be dark right there. Okay. Now I'm going to use a brush. I want to kind of I don't know whether to, I think I'm going to use this. This is called Simply Simmons Angle 3/8 inch. I'm going to wet it. I'm going to wet my black again. I just misted it a tad there, and I'm going to outline some of this stuff. This is a, well, I said it's a 3/8 inch. It gets a, we'll see if it's going to get a skinny enough line for what we want for some of it. If not, I'll change brushes and I'll tell you what we do. But I'm trying to get some of this black really thin, because it, when you're writing or when you're outlining and when you're doing you know, daintier or more detailed things, it helps if your paint's a little thinner. I love the thick body paints because you can do so much more with them, and when you need them to be thinner, you just add some water and thin them down. And life is good. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Definitely thicker than I wanted. See, I'm not really like drawing a completely straight line here. Kind of roughing it in and out. We're going to do our table the same way. See how it's a little lighter where it picked up some of the white. It's okay because that's our light side. Okay, that's definitely way too thick of a brush for going around the leaves, which are next. So I'm going to put that down and get us a little liner top brush. I'm going to try this long skinny one. This is, who knows what it is. It's washed off. But it's got very long, thin, it's called a liner, very long, thin bristles. But I really need the water to be thin, the paint to be thin, thin, thin. So I'm mixing a little water and then twirling the brush like this to pick some of that up, yet leave me with a point at the end. And I'm not trying to go back to the to the shapes that we had to begin with of the leaves, but we do want them to still be the indication of, hey, that's a leaf, right? Every few minutes when I'm doing this, add a little more water and thin it back out because you don't want a lot. See, I'm not trying to stay in the lines of the green. Okay. I'm going to do a couple of other things here. I'm going to use some white and some black. I'm just using the tip end of the brush that I was just using. I just rinsed it off so I would have it. But I'm going to put a little bit of just dots and things here and there in those leaves to give them a little more character and a little more whimsy. And see, I'm just using my same thing. Just think about your odd numbers, and it doesn't have to go on all of them. We're just adding a little something something here and there, but I am thinking about the side that would be in the shadow and the areas that would be in the shadow to put my dark parts. Okay, now I'm going to wipe that off, and I'm going to have to get some more white out because I'm going to do the same thing with the white. And this doesn't have to be circles. This can be lines. This white is thick, and I hate to thin it out for this. I'm just going to dip the end of my brush in the water, doing the same thing, just thinning it out a tad. And what are we going to do? Let's just go with some lines. I'm going to use the liner end because I decided to go with lines, and I want to wet it real good. Get it thin and flowy. Just mixing, mixing, mixing with the tip of my brush and twisting. Same thing we did with the black. We're just adding a little whimsy. I'm going to add 5. That's a big old leaf. This is just going to catch a little light, give it a little whimsy. It's not going to be the main thing that's supposed to show up in it. Use this same white. I'm just really trying to water it down and get it thin, and it's just not wanting to get thin enough, but my water over there is turning black because I've used so much black in it. Trying to just mix up and get a little here. I'm going to hopefully not hate myself. I'm gonna mist it with the water. put some squigglies on the flowers themselves. And this really, I should let them dry before I do this. So that's your choice whether to do this, not to do this, whether to dry them first and all that kind of stuff. But I gotta, let me show you. A lot of water on here. I'm really trying to just mix it up right now is what I got going on. And twirl my brush and just put a few little swirlies here and there. What this does is sort of mimics some of the petals that may be in the roses. Gives it a little more of a feminine flair. How's that? Bet you didn't expect that, did you? A little bit of sort of indication of petals or whatever. Okay, now the only thing I don't like right now is the vase. So let's think for a second, look at our colors, think about what we've got, and we could go white with it. And I got the white out already, so that's what I'm fixing to try to do. And I'm going to go ahead and do it with a brush. This is kind of a stiff, flat brush. This one is Grummacher Academy Multimedia 792 Flat Shader. How about that? And I'm just going to grab up some of that white. Do that, and I'm gonna use the white and lighten up the table. And then we're going to do our finishing touches, which should change the look of everything. And I'm going to use a brush because we're running so long on time right now. And I think it'll be quicker. And I'm just dampening my brush. It's got a loose head on it. Hope that don't bite me. This is another flat Miller's Gold Fleece Golden Nylon 3/4 inch flat. And I'm just going back to what black we have on our palette here. I'm going to have to spray it because, man, is it, look at this. Look how dry that is. I don't want it thin, of course, but, you know, I don't want that big old hunk on there. And we're going to do our edges. Then we're going to see if that brings us where we wanted to be. You could do this with a big old chip brush. I don't have one sitting here. I love these flats. This one I got here. But I want to show you the detail of that. I'm going all the way to the bottom here, to the bottom of my canvas. And I'm smearing it in. I'm getting it most everywhere. Getting in these corner edges a little bit. But here's the part. I'm going to come over these edges just a little bit to frame it in. And I want that to be sort of rough looking. I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. Make sure you can still see that. Yep. You know what? I'm going to mist the edge of this. At least a little bit. There we go. Much easier. this way, that way, the other way. This is not an act of perfection we're working on here. We are having a good time and doing what needs to be done. Get a little bit more on my tips, and I'm just kind of wanting it to look roughed up a little. See where that went over? Perfectly okay. We'll do a little bit more of that around the corners actually. Got a little water, a little paint, mist. The things we do to save a little paint, right? I don't want this to be so thin that it looks gray. I do want it to be obviously a black painted border around my canvas. Last one. Spray the paint, mist the side. See how that's sort of bringing it in and changing the attitude of it, making it a little more dark and different and aged and all of those things, all the things. I'm going to want to do something very similar to that at the edge of the table. I'm getting out that tiny little palette knife again. Scrape what paint's on the brush off because I'm done with it. Dab in my watery paint, what's left of it. And I'm wanting these edges to look a little rougher. There we go. There we go. Now you're getting the hang of what's supposed to be going on here. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the vase. I am scraping the palette here to get some black off of this. And then remember, this is our darker side. See if we can get any more at all off of there. Trying to give a little bit of the indication of that roundness, and it's done. What happens now is you get you a little bitty brush like this. This is a low Cornell round 0, and you pick whatever colors left on your palette that you want to do. And what are we going to do? How should I sign my name? I got that green, probably got a tad of that purple. You know I love that purple. We got a big old blob of white I'm not wanting to waste, and some black. I'm going to use the black because this is the first painting I've put black on in a while. Thinning it out. Probably should go back to that other liner, but it's deep down in that water right now. Twirling, remember? Trying to get some thin paint, barely on our tip. And we're going to put, where are we going to put it at? We're going to put it right here. We're going to put a T, because that's me. And this is my first painting of 19. Dedicated to burning. And I love y'all. Hope you enjoyed that. And please send me pictures of yours when it's complete. I'll be excited to see it. Thanks. Bye.